Hi, my name is Jim Brogan, and today I want to talk to you about good sense gun legislation. Okay? I really don't have any faith that with Republicans dominating so many states and having a 50-50 split in the Senate, that we're ever going to get good sense gun legislation. But here's what good sense gun legislation might look like if we were to get it. Okay, so the first thing that good sense gun legislation would contain is comprehensive background checks across the board for the purchase of any firearm, whether it be a handgun or a assault rifle, shotgun, no matter what. If you're buying a firearm, comprehensive background check so that we know that you are not dangerous and a threat to the community when you purchase that weapon. Now, comprehensive background check would include, by my definition, a search of social media, analyzing social media content for any warnings or cues that would indicate a person is mentally, emotionally unstable and could just go out and start shooting up schools, churches, family gatherings, or public spaces. And this would be mandatory. Nobody would get their weapon until this was completed. If the state fails to provide sufficient resources for these background checks to be done in a timely manner, well then elect new state officials. That's, you have the right to vote. Comprehensive background checks. We make sure that person doesn't have a criminal background, doesn't have a mental illness, isn't espousing violence toward races, ethnic groups, religions, minority groups, immigrants, their family, schools, churches, whatever. There's no sign that they're espousing any violence. They've no criminal record. Okay, we're good. The other requirement, I would raise the age limit, not from 18 to 21, but from 18 to 26. And here's my reasoning on this. Science has proven that the human brain is not fully mature until 26 years old. I spent 25 years in corrections, and all law enforcement personnel learn during their training that most people stop committing crimes by the time they're 26 years old. That the majority of crimes are committed by people under 26. And science has explained why that is. Because they're not mentally, emotionally mature yet. Their brains have not yet reached full maturity. So, let's not give dangerous weapons that are designed to kill and have no purpose other than to kill to people who have not yet reached a level of maturity where we can be sure that they will not behave in an irrational manner at suddenly just because of their youth and underdeveloped mind, underdeveloped brain. Okay? Immature brain. Okay, so age and background check, training. Now, you should have to give a reason why you want this weapon. You want to go hunting. Okay. Are you properly trained in the proper procedures for handling a rifle or whatever kind of weapon you're going to use in hunting so that you will not injure other hunters or people that are non-hunters? Are you properly trained? Do you know the laws? Do you know where you should use the weapon? Do you know how to properly use the weapon so that you won't injure yourself or somebody you're standing next to? This is important. Not everybody who picks up a weapon can safely handle it without some instruction. This is a dangerous tool. You get behind the wheel of a car, you expect somebody to be teaching you how to use that car. Nobody just jumps behind the wheel of a car without ever having driven a car and drives off down the road. This is just not how it's done. You need to be taught how to use that weapon, okay? What is the purpose for which you are going to use the weapon? You should have to answer that question, and then you should have to provide evidence that you have been properly trained to use the weapon in that manner. And the weapon you're purchasing should fit the category for that use. Now, if you say you want to use the weapon for self-defense, well, have you been properly trained in how to use that weapon for self-defense? Because let me tell you, as a career law enforcement officer, I can assure you that most firearms do not lend themselves to self-defense. They are offensive weapons. They lend themselves very well to ambushing and attacking, but defending, they're not so good at. If you need a firearm to defend against somebody else who has a firearm, well, the other person, the attacker with the firearm, has already taken the first shot at you probably. And if you had no warning, and they knew what they were doing with the weapon, you're not going to get to defend yourself. You're dead. So if your excuse for having a weapon is self-defense, what is your training in using it for that purpose? If you're not really well trained at using it for the purpose of self-defense, it's useless. So your justification for getting it is self-defense. Okay, how many weeks and months and how many hundreds of hours of training have you had in using that weapon for self-defense? You know, I'm not trying to be unreasonable. I'm not trying to tell people that they can't have weapons, that they can't have guns. I'm just trying to say that you should have to justify why you need this weapon. Now, if your reason for needing an assault rifle is because you are afraid that the tyrannical U.S. government will someday try to take away your rights, and you want to be able to rise up against the U.S. government if it ever does try to take away your rights, well, then you need to go through a psychological evaluation to make sure that you are not really confused and dangerous to society because of that confusion. I'm not saying I trust the U.S. government. I'm not saying that's not a valid reason for wanting to have an assault rifle. But let me ask you this. Do you have military experience? Do you have tactical experience? How are you going to cope with a tank, a fighter jet, an attack helicopter? What good is that AR-15 going to do you in a genuine military situation? What's your training? What's your expertise? Now, what's your mindset? Are you genuinely a patriotic American? Or are you severely under the influence of foreign influencers who want you to create havoc within the United States? We really need to know. This is important. Are you a danger to the community because of your mindset, because of what you believe, because of the propaganda you've been listening to? Or are you a genuine patriot who will use good sense and good rationale and only act in concert with the rest of American citizens to stand up against a government genuinely turned tyrannical, aka Republican, aka Donald Trump? This is important. It is important to know, Are you going to try to overthrow the U.S. government because you don't like who the majority of people elected? Or are you going to stand up to a tyrannical government that has ignored the rule of law and ignored who was elected and tried to stay in office despite having lost an election, or trying to take office despite having lost an election? These are important questions to be answered. And these questions should be answered before you get a military weapon of war, which is what an AR-15 is. Understand, if you need an AR-15 for hunting, there's only one animal on this planet that weapon was designed to hunt, and that is man. Human beings are the only animals on this planet that an AR-15 was designed to hunt. So if you put down your reason for needing an AR-15 as hunting, right there you should be rejected. There's only one animal you could go hunting with an AR-15, and enough said. Okay, so right there are a few good sense gun legislation things that can be done that would enormously impact the number of shootings across the country. If loose law states like Florida, Texas, Missouri, and several other Republican states that let just any bozo out there buy a weapon without a background check, if they were curtailed and forced to follow these sensible rules, the number of illegal weapons turning up in New York City, Chicago, LA, and killing people would drastically drop. And the number of weapons being exported to Mexico for Mexican gangs to kill people with would drastically drop too. Now, would this hurt gun manufacturers' bottom line? Absolutely. Would gun manufacturers be upset about the implementation of these good sense rules? Absolutely. Gun manufacturers don't care how many of us we kill. They don't care how many schools or churches or shopping malls get shot up. They don't care how many drive-bys are done. They don't care how many children die or minorities get killed. They just don't care because their bottom line is the dollar. And human life takes a backseat to the dollar. And if you agree with that, you're fucking insane and we will never agree. But if you don't think that the rationale of the gun lobby should be the rationale of lawmakers, vote against the Republicans. Vote against the insanity. Vote in favor of good sense laws. And you notice all through this I have used the term good sense, not common sense. Sense has never been common. Common sense is a misnomer. I say good sense because there is such a thing as good sense. It's just not common. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've gotten something valuable from this. If you have any other suggestions, by all means, submit them in the comments. If you agree with me, give me a thumbs up. If you disagree with me, explain to me why. Explain to me why. If you want to curse me out, I'm just going to delete you. Because the reality is, any 2-year-old can learn curse words. It's immature. It's immature to call me names and insult me. Give me a reasoned argument why I'm wrong. I will listen. I will reevaluate my opinions based on any reasonable, rational evidence that you provide. But I require reasonable, rational evidence, not garbage arguments. All right, so thank you so much for watching. Be blessed. Stay safe. God bless you.